So it's 7:10. I will call the April 6th meeting of the EDC to order. Present, we have Cody Thompson, Laura Parker, Denise Luciano, and myself, Sandy Ollerhead. And Paul DiGiuseppe, you're gonna start us off with your update. Did you want to go through your information first?
Yeah, we had a big night last night with planning board. And so last night was primarily, it was the first night of hearing the zoning petitioned articles and some text changes that the planning board itself had initiated. The highlight of it was that the rezoning for Reed and Barton, the planning board unanimously supported rezoning from industrial to village commercial. There is a company looking to take over ownership of the site. It's Devco North America. They're a company out of Boston who have, through different experiences, have worked with brownfield sites and dirty sites like this. So we're real excited because we think the woman who is the president of the company, her name's Ann Brensley, she loves challenging sites, and this is what their business model is. So we were fortunate to get in touch with her, and now she is working through the courts to try to take ownership. So fortunately, that would take it when that if and when that happens, she would then assume all liabilities, and it's now back in ownership, and we go forward from there. So, but it passed last night. There were a lot of people at the meeting last night. There were questions more specific to the site itself, and really not much in terms of the rezoning because it's already zoned industrial, although people certainly raised questions about traffic and what the type of development would be, but she doesn't know at this point. There were questions about the site, the conditions of the contamination and all that, but we're still studying that. So that was a big step. We also, the board also had, they recommended against a rezoning right down the street from there, a property between Mansfield Ave and Reservoir. There was a property that's currently zoned residential 60, and the applicant was requesting village commercial. But ultimately, after a lot of discussion, the board unanimously voted against rezoning it. So again, that'll be going to town meeting. The concern there primarily was this parcel really is an outlier in terms of where we've traditionally put village commercial zoning. This wasn't on one of the main corridors. It's a very large parcel, over 20 acres. So they just recommended against it. There was quite a bit of neighborhood opposition to it, but they get to go to town meeting, and but the planning board will read its recommendation for that. We also, so some other projects that got final approval last night was 196 Mansfield Ave, right just north of Auto Part International. They approved the final decision with conditions for a 100,000 square foot flex warehouse space. So that's a pretty big, project. In fact, in doing some research on it, a similar building where Spears Manufacturing is, which is a little bit larger by about 8,000 square feet, they're paying about $92,000 to the town this year in property taxes. So when this building gets built, we can look at some similar amounts of property taxes coming in, and hopefully we'll see a fair amount of jobs, although that's certainly remains to be seen at this point. But that's gotten approval. So that was a big one. The last thing, the board, it is significant for economic development because we were proposing some modifications to the zoning bylaw to promote under the, the focus of it was to promote economic development. So we added a number of uses in our use tables, including things for life sciences, where we'd want to see those in areas where we're zoned industrial, and also adding some what you would call artisanal uses to try to locate those in places like our village center. We also were making recommendations to our what they call the regulations table for each zoning district. And so one of the things we're doing that will help some projects go forward, like a Reed and Barton, is we actually have a density cap in there right now of 7 units per building, which how that got in, I don't know, but we were making a modification to that to eliminate the cap of 7 units in a multifamily building. But the thing that got some discussion last night that tied back to the rezoning on Mansfield and Reservoir that didn't pass was, before we even knew that zoning was coming, we made some modifications to the village commercial district to reduce the minimum lot size and reduce the frontage requirements. Just looking at the main corridors on West Main Street, East Main, Mansfield Ave, and realizing a lot of these lots could be better developed or redeveloped if we took some fairly large minimum lot size requirements and frontage requirements and shrunk them. And of course, as how luck would have it, of course, this rezoning comes along, and some of the neighbors were concerned that if they asked us to pull it all off the table, but we are going to meet next week. The planning board decided to meet next week again to see if we can just simply delete a couple of those provisions from the warrant so that the neighborhood is fine with it, and then we can bring it back at a later time. Fortunately, we will be meeting the night before the select board, I guess, finalizes the warrant article, so we should be in good shape there. And I guess the last thing, as Sandy mentioned before we started, we were just granted, we received a grant from SERPID for what they call a DLTA fund, the District Local Technical Assistance Fund. And it's going to be there to help us they're going to help us create what we call a housing production plan. It's not a direct economic impact, but obviously you have to align your housing in such a way that you can still attract people to live and work here. And what a housing production plan does is it comes up with strategies as to how you can integrate different housing types and different price points, into our bylaw and into identifying grant funding to, whereas the MBTA thing is a blunt forced object, this is a better way of integrating different densities within town. So since we have no housing planning capacity, this was one of the consulting services that SERPID was offering. So we were granted that award. So hopefully this will help us build some housing planning capacity, which will give us a good look at our housing strategies. So, and as an example was last night with that rezoning that the planning board recommended against. Now the applicant wants to do a residential project, which, people were more upset about the rezoning to village commercial, and I think the residential. But the problem is they have to work within the tools with what we have, and we don't have many of them. And to be honest with you, the more I get involved with the residential development, our tools don't work well. And so the housing production plan can help take a good hard look at our bylaw and figure out ways of making a more productive, have the regulations be more productive and allowing options that people might still be, very happy with, versus trying to, manipulate the zoning to get the densities you want.
But is the concern over village commercial the commercial aspect of it? Like they don't want retail. It's not necessarily that they don't want, you know, condos or townhomes or whatever. It's just the potential that if you zone it that way, that they could throw retail in there if they wanted to.
Yes, and other uses that are allowed under it, which is pretty significantly more than the residential 60 zoning that's around it.
Yeah, how would it be worthwhile looking into? I mean, are the zoning definitions set by the state, or is it set at the local level? Like, is it something that we could change as a town?
It's in our bylaw, so it is by our regulations.
So we could change, well, we could try to change the bylaw and basically create a subset of village commercial to be village without commercial.
You could, and that will be one of the benefits of doing a housing production plan, is to figure out that, you know, what is that sweet spot for density, for lot sizes. So yeah, I think it will end up giving us more and better tools than what we have. I mean, let's face it, we have 1 acre, 1.5 acre and 2 acre lot sizes as our residential zoning districts. And that is, first of all, that puts hundreds of lots as non-conforming, because we have all these small lots, you know, down around Winnicott, down in the Grove. And
all the historical lots, I would think, were way under that size.
Way under, right. I mean, that keeps the zoning board of appeals pretty busy. People want to add on to their house, and then, you know, we have to flag them for, you know, you may have, you know, a 20,000 square foot lot, which, you know, living in Providence like I do, on 2 lots that are combined to be less than 6,000 square feet. It seems ridiculous, you know, and I mean, I get it. We're a rural-ish, suburban, ex-urban type of community, but sometimes it's a real inefficient use of land, you know.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
we might have good ideas that we just don't either have the tools to allow them to do, or they have to approach or, you know, try to rezone it at a much, you know, with a district that offers way too much in, you know, for the context around where it may be applied. And so it's all about improving the toolbox.
Aren't a lot of the, is it Norton Village? I can't remember the Glen. I can't remember what it's called over by the reservoir. I think it's all zoned R40, but none of them actually would comply now with the R40, like just the frontage. I don't think you wouldn't be able to do frontage, let alone setbacks.
Right, and lot size.
Yeah, because we've got, I mean, under that project that we did for identifying the town-owned properties and the foreclosure properties, you could sell them, but then they'd have to go to zoning board to get approval because they couldn't put a house on it, even though it's the exact same size as the lot next to it.
Yeah, and you know, that's a wonderful neighborhood, and why shouldn't we be able to replicate it or let them add on to it, you know, and do what they could have done 50 years ago. So anyway, we'll be starting that. It'll be more of for year 1 of the housing production plan, they'll really be working behind the scenes, doing a lot of data collection. And then year 2, presuming that there's funding for it, it would be the actual plan development and community outreach.
What does the community outreach look like for that, Paul? Is it sessions, or is it just like public information things? What kind of?
So when Grant and I spoke, we wanted to do informational sessions again, like similar to what we did with the master plan, but they still have to draw out the scope and all that. But it's always good to bring the public in to weigh in on it. It just adds a lot more credibility. But we'll have to see what money they have next year for it too, but I think it's real important that we do this out in a public forum.
Hey, Paul, if I can ask, and apologies to everyone for being late. Just for the record, I joined at 7:17. But Paul, I think I caught you said that one of the zoning articles failed. Is that the one on Reservoir that the board didn't support? The board didn't support the one on Reservoir in Mansfield. So what happens? What happens from technically? It's on Reservoir. I'm sorry. I think of that project more holistically because they bought 3 properties, but 2 of them were on Mansfield that were zoned village commercial already, but then the big parcel was zoned, that was Wheaton's property, was zoned R60. So the planning board recommended against rezoning it to village commercial. And what's the process then? Because that was a petitioned article, right? They still get to go to town meeting. No, they go to town meeting, but then what's the process? I mean, like with abutter notices and things like that, because that's typically something the town does, right? We did. Okay, so all that process still happens regardless of the planning board support? Well, that process already happened because the notice to the abutters was for the planning board meeting. Okay. So we did it, and you know, we had about, between Zoom and in person, we had about 60 people, and mostly for that project. So yeah, but going forward now, you know, we notified them yesterday that it still goes to town meeting. It'll just go to town meeting with a negative recommendation. It still has to go to FinCom for their recommendation, since FinCom reviews everything that goes to town meeting. So I don't know, that hasn't been scheduled yet, but I'll let the applicants for those folks, and then Ann Brensley, who's with Devco North America, who's spearheading the changes at Reed and Barton, which did get a favorable vote yesterday from the planning board. That's good. So I know we talked last time about that piece of property, splitting it, right? So that just like whether or not they would have that opportunity to split the property so that what was on Mansfield Ave could be village commercial. But you said that was initially it was 3 parcels. Yeah, it still is. It still is. So they bought 3 properties. Wheaton was one, and then 2 properties that was owned by the Peterson Trust. Can you show that on the town map? Yeah. You know, meetings are so much better on Zoom than they are in person. It's, you know, you can do things like that. Yeah, because you can easily do things like this.
I love it. You can edit on the fly. It's actually a little bit more efficient.
Do you guys remember? Well, yeah. Do you remember while he's looking for this, when we used to meet in the selectmen's meeting room, and it took us like 30 minutes just to get the display to work so everybody could see everything?
Yeah, and you had to be like sitting like right under it, and the cable wasn't long enough, and the cable would come undone. Or you'd be in the break room and you couldn't get it to work at all.
Yeah, Paul, I remember you helped us for like an hour trying to get on the network and then trying to get on that monitor.
Sandy, are you host?
Oh, it might be me.
Okay, can you enable?
Yep.
Okay.
I swear I changed a setting on the main, like my main page, and it never stays. You should be all set, Paul. Sorry about that.
So here we go. So this is one of the properties. This is, you know what, let me put the zoning layer up. You know what, Zoom needs to do a better job of not blocking screens. There we go. So see, that's Village Commercial and Marijuana Overlay District. So this is one property they bought. And then this little piece here is another one they bought. Then this one was this one subject to it. So this is outdated now because this is not Wheaton College anymore. It's owned, I don't know what the name of the company is, but Daniel Viana is one of the owners. And so that was the property that was subject to the petition article.
Okay. So if they wanted, do you know where the plans to do something on the water? Or just have access from Mansfield Avenue back to it?
So, okay, yeah, this is a complicated site. Goes without saying. I mean, even without the whole of the zoning, there is this doesn't even come close to showing. I was going to show you what the wetlands were like, but that doesn't really do a good job of it. But it's going to be hard to get a crossing here. This area, if you follow the mouse here, this is all wet. This is a big extensive wetland through here that's been delineated. So that was one of the concerns, they're going to have to bridge it to get over here. That's going to be a challenge. So, we'll have to see. I mean, I don't know what their game plan is. I assume they're going to continue to go forward to town meeting and take their chances, but then have plan B or C when, if that fails at town meeting. But access is going to be a big thing because, we have to be really, conscientious about adding. They told us last night about 50 to 70 units could go here and here. All told, although again, a lot of this gets cut off because it's the massive amount of wetlands that are there. So anyway.
Thank you for showing that.
Sewer there or
something? They are proposing to extend sewer, and the neighborhood doesn't want that. So they're concerned about the cost of connecting. Okay. They would extend it from reservoir. So let me put that back up.
So to that point, I wanted to bring it up at some point. The sewer connection fees in this town are exorbitant, especially in comparison to neighboring towns. I haven't found any town that I've researched that is anywhere near the connection fees that our town charges. And I'm doing some research to figure out why ours is so high, or like when it was set. But it becomes a barrier to entry for a lot of anyone that's looking at running sewer, and you're going to get exactly what's happening here. If they want to run sewer and the sewer department lays a pipe down through so that they can connect, now you've got betterment fees that apply to every single person along that route. And now those, 3-bedroom households are looking at $10,000 to connect.
It may be higher than that.
It's just absurd. I mean, it doesn't, and that's just the connection fee. That's
and not wanting to rehash a very long same discussion last night, but Cody's nailed it.
I mean, that's the whole thing. I mean, at what point can we, as the Economic Development Commission, figure out a way to assess those rates and or reassess those rates and figure out where they're coming from, why they're so high, and why they don't make any sense? It would make a lot more sense for it to be a lower amount and maybe increase the usage rate. But you want more people connected to a sewer, and you get your revenues quarterly as they're billed. Yeah. But if you've got a 4-bedroom house, $15,400 to connect, without the additional probably anywhere to $5,000 to $10,000 in contractor labor to demolish your septic and run the new line. Yeah. So you're looking at $20,000 to $25,000 just to freaking connect. It just doesn't make any sense.
Well, right. And Cody, that's been brought up multiple times, and that's why that article was pushed at, I don't know if it was the last town meeting or the time before that, but Paul, if a company were to pay, right, to have the sewer line extended, it's up to the town to determine if we would then want to apply like any sort of condition along that sewer line, right? it's up to us to do it.
I don't know. That came up last night. I don't know the answer to that. That's really for the Water and Sewer Commission and Department to figure that out, because they were talking, they've told us, and they mentioned last night, so you see where the hand is, there's a sewer line right there. And
where are you, Paul? Move your mouse for
between Elm Street and Acre.
Yep.
So they were going to run it down Reservoir to their property, and then somehow, I don't know, they don't have obviously the lines drawn out yet, but they would connect through here and then connect up those properties.
But then you've got how many, 10, 12 houses there that would then be forced to pay a betterment assessment, which is going to be those houses are going to be three bedroom.
Well, potentially, I think that's the question is do we have to do that? Like, I understand that the tie into Plain Street, even though I completely disagreed with it, right? Like, we as a town needed to get sewer up to a school. And so as part of that and to fund the project, right, the people along one side of the road had to tie in a certain amount of time. But I'm wondering if it's privately funded, like, do we as a town have to tell people to tie in? I don't understand why. And if we do, like, that decision, in my opinion, should be at a town meeting, not necessarily a water and sewer decision.
Yeah, and I'll say this only because it's fresh in my mind, because I was doing the meeting minutes. But when the water sewer department people came to meet with us and showed us the map, they're planning to do sewage all the way around Reservoir anyway. What they showed us was the top parts that already had sewage. And they needed to finish closing up the bottom parts along 140 and wherever you just were, Reservoir, to save the resources of the water, right? That was driven by resource conservation or whatever, but they were planning to do that anyway.
And I can tell you, my neighborhood, the developer came in and put a sewer in, and the town tried to force. My understanding was it was a private line, like private sewer line was laid, and the town tried to force all 29 houses in this subdivision to tie in, and it failed. Got the backing of, everybody voted it down at town meeting.
Right, and the condition is now, right, just upon septic failure. You have to tie in, right?
Failure,
it's not even sale.
But that was fine. But again, if it wasn't for each one of the houses in this neighborhood that's 4 bedrooms, I think there may even be a couple of 5 bedrooms. For a 4-bedroom house, the fee is $15,400 to the town.
To connect?
Just to connect. And the town doesn't do anything. The town's not doing any work. The pipe's already laid, the stub's already there. You don't have to tear up the road because the stub sits 30 feet on my property. So what exactly is that $15,400 going to? And then you got to pay another $10,000 to connect to the stub. Why? If that cost was $2,000, then I think it probably would have passed and everybody would have been like, okay, that's fine.
Cody, can you, like, in your research, have you documented like what other towns are charging for fees? Especially like, didn't we just do that whole exercise about what comparable towns are to Norton? Yeah,
I was trying. So on Mansfield, they didn't have. I reached out and sent the town an email, but Mansfield, it looks like you have to, like, the town actually does the connection. So their rates they have hourly rates for the construction to come lay the pipe and do that, but there's no actual fee for the assessment or the betterment that you have to pay to the town. You just have to pay them to come do the connection. Easton, the highest connection fee that I could find on Easton's website was $3,000. And that was for like multi-units, larger pipe, whatever, connection. Plainville, I couldn't find that they had any fee assessment, and that's as far as I got. But I couldn't find anybody around us where, you go on Town of Norton website and, you click on sewer and water and there's the fee schedule, and I have it pulled up here. It's it's based on an average usage of 35 gallons per day with a minimum of 110 gallons per day being used by a 3-bedroom house. So it's $11,500 for a 3-bedroom house, $15,400 for a 4-bedroom house. So it's $35 per gallon times 110 times the number of bedrooms. And I can't figure out where that number comes from. I can understand the 110 gallons per day, but why $35?
So Paul, did somebody take away those questions to talk to the Sewer and Water Commission about, you know, if it's done privately, if there has to be the betterment assessment?
No.
Is somebody taking that away or no?
No. I mean, this was all just brought up in the context of a rezoning, and so no, the board didn't direct us to do that. So, I mean, it might be a good idea for the EDC to have a joint meeting with Water and Sewer.
Well, we already did, and we talked about this, right?
Oh.
I mean, that was
yeah. I tried to ask, like, where does that fee come from, and they're like,
I didn't feel like we got a defined answer.
Yeah.
What they said was the only way to reduce it would be if the town subsidized part of the fee on behalf of the people that were.
They didn't say why the fee is what it is, where that
correct
number is from.
Yeah, in fact, that dollar amount, $35 a gallon, has come up with that approval at 196 Mansfield. That the fee is probably tied in. My understanding on this, so this came up with 196 Mansfield, the one that just got approved for 100,000 square feet. So that fee might be something that we're paying to MFN, because in that case, that property years ago reserved a lot of water and sewer capacity. And the property owner has been paying that for 20 years with nothing built on it. And when that property is about to sell, because they're getting their approvals, the new property owner, or the soon-to-be property owner, was asking the town, why are you still having me pay for 20,000 gallons a day when I only need half of that? And the answer was, well, that's what's been reserved for MFN. But it might also be the same fact that the $35, because that was what he has to pay, and it was in that agreement. Well, I'm sorry, the agreement was for much less, because that agreement was signed about 20 years ago. So it was $7 a gallon actually. And, you know, it may have something to do with the rates that we have to pay to MFN. I don't
know. What is MFN?
Mansfield, Foxborough, Norton wastewater treatment plant. It may not. That's the sewer, so I don't know how that affects water rates. But
that's what I'm wondering. Like, you know, this neighborhood isn't on town water. It's all well. So tying in a sewer, it's like you're not having to run water back out here. I mean, there's fire hydrants, but other than that, it's not.
Right. I mean, I've had a couple meetings with them. Well, one, I should say, I didn't meet with them, but I was there when they were talking about 196 Mansfield. And one comment I made to them was, you know, our master plan talks about aligning where you invest the water and sewer lines, where we want to see the more significant growth, like the economic development. And that really means the 2 corridors and, you know, well, I would say South Washington area, but we could, I mean, even though a portion of that, like Commerce Way, is actually served by Taunton Sewer. So, you know, but I think my perspective is stay out of the residential areas as much as possible, and put the sewer and the water in places where we have the commercial growth or the more intensive residential growth. It'll be more profitable for them because that's more connections.
Yeah, and I mean the point I was trying to make with them on the last time or whenever they were on the call was when you put up a barrier of, you have a 3-bedroom house and it's going to cost you $11,500 to the town, not including what you have to pay your contractor. And we're going to force you to connect. If we run a sewer past your house, you have to connect to it.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to vote that project down. Everyone along that route and everybody at town meeting is going to get behind them because they're going to say, I don't want that either. Like, I don't want you running a sewer down my street. If you're going to ask me then that I have to come up with $15,000 to $20,000 for my 3-bedroom house, yeah. I don't have $15,000 to $20,000 just sitting around. So
well, and it becomes it certainly is an affordability issue, especially with things as expensive as they are now. If you get new development and you're tacking on another 15 to 20,000 per unit, and this is with the 40B that was approved at 195 Mansfield. They, the applicant, I didn't really agree with how they did this, but they wanted to get a fee waiver on the sewer connection. And my thought was, well, why don't you at least consider giving them a break on the fees, some break on the fees for the affordable units only. And my point was, if the more deeply affordable they are, give them a bigger break, do a sliding scale, but at the end result was no fee waivers for a 40B development.
So can y'all see my screen?
Yep.
This is Taunton. 4-bedroom house, Taunton, $2,200. That's their fee.
So can I jump in for a second? I know for a fact that it was when Scott, I think, was on the board, they did a study where they did compare towns and they broke down how that was calculated. So they do have that data somewhere. You maybe just need to, ask for email, I guess, and get it from the person who did that. It was, I forget who the financial guy was that did a lot of those calculations. Yeah. The idea is, Cody, that they're paying for I believe the sewer itself, the sewer line itself, because the town's not paying for that. The residents, then they're pushing a burden onto the residents. But I thought with a commercial, the idea was that if the commercial, just brings it down a street, for example, I thought they then paid that. Is that not the case? I thought that happened on like a different part of Reservoir or 140 where they connected.
I don't think it happened on 123, right? When the line was extended down to Blue Star, like everybody on 123 ended up having to tie in, but it was done differently than on Plain.
You're talking about on Leonard? No,
I'm talking about on 123.
Yeah, the Condyne, when Condyne extended it to Blue Star. Right, they couldn't connect. There's an engineering aspect of it because I guess it's a gravity line and they weren't, it's unfortunate. It would have been great to connect people to it, but they didn't. But I think that was more of an engineering to be able to pump it, get it up, over 495. And so,
but I thought, Paul, isn't that the same situation though, that they have betterments, right? That those people have to connect in a certain amount of time?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not very familiar with that line, but my understanding was they didn't have to connect because I don't think they can, because individual properties might not have the flow sufficient to work it. I'm not an engineer, I'm not a sewer guy.
Yeah. So from the town meeting, the last town meeting where the 8 or 9 houses on Plain Street that were being forced to attach, there was something about when it was gravity fed, like it had to be pumped up and up Plain, and then once it reached the crash, it becomes gravity fed, and there were 8 or 9 houses on the gravity side, and they were the ones that had to, because as it was being pumped up, in order to tie into that, you'd have to meet that pressure. You have to exceed that pressure so that it's not coming back in. And
it's the force main. Yeah. So, right.
But that was the whole thing about there were only some houses on Plain Street that had to do it, right? It was like half of it, not everything. Yeah, I don't remember that being the same for 123, but again, I don't know either. I just remember talking about it, you know, based on extending the timeline that people need to tie in. Anyway, I don't think that's something that we're going to solve here. And I guess back to Paul, your update on, you know, the planning board issues or articles. I'm sorry. You know, I wanted to know what the process was, because it obviously still moves forward as a petition article.
Yeah.
You know, whether FinCom recommends it or not, somebody, you know, if they don't recommend it, somebody's going to push it from the floor, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, it goes all the way to the town meeting. So
yep.
Both of them do. So I guess just a couple more things. We are, well, Renee, you know, last week you had that presentation on the ARPA funding. I'm just kind of itching to get a consultant on board to get a business association to focus on a business association. So waiting to hear on that.
Paul, do you have that slide from the meeting? Like, do you have the one slide on the request that you asked for funding?
I'd have to dig it up.
Okay, keep talking. I'll see if I have it, because I think that would be interesting for the commission to see and understand. I know we had some discussion about, you know, some of the things that you would consider, and I believe in there you said there was a certain for the small business support, right? It would be something that potentially the EDC would kind of have a review process and help to vet those requests.
So I had it's shrunk a little bit since my initial submittal a while back, but so in addition to the wanting to get a consultant for $25,000, and that was the scope that this consultant had provided, I had done some research with other towns who have been using ARPA funds to do grants for small businesses to use funds to help them, make investments, up to $25,000 to do things like software improvements, point of sales software, and other things that might be able to help them become more financially resilient. So communities like Taunton had the idea of doing the point of sales. In fact, they were spotlighted in my Mass Municipal Association because they've funded close to 40 businesses, small businesses in Taunton who didn't have an ability to make sales online. So they work with consultants to work with those. And I just thought, that could be a great thing here, along with if they needed website updates and all of that. So, but what my thought was this could be a good role for the EDC if we roll this grant out and ask for requests, that the board, the EDC could be the group that reviews the applications to see who gets funded. But we're still waiting to hear on the funding, and then I'll have to do legwork to roll out the process for, if we go that route, that we would, have to have a good process set up to blast out the notice for it, which we would use that database that you all put together, get it out that way, and then figure out a scoring system and all of that. And then, yeah.
That was from the ARPA funds?
ARPA, yeah, from the ARPA funding. Okay. Ours was a very small percentage of other departments. Didn't go for all 4 items combined, wouldn't have combined for some individual items, but they have capital projects. So, and then we want to use some of the money to finally do a guidebook, Doing Business in Norton guidebook. And I'm trying to remember what was the fourth one, which I would say would be personally my lowest priority, but that would be to do what they call a smart growth overlay district. It's essentially would be an overlay district. It's there to promote more intensive development. And I was thinking, let's put it in at least one area where we already have sewer. And, you know, probably, I mean, it wouldn't be where we have the village center core, but we could get a consultant to help us put that together. And there's actually, if we were able to get that, the state actually helps reimburse. I don't know all the specifics of it, but for example, if we were to have that smart growth overlay, if students were living in that housing built by it and they go to school here, the state makes payment to the town for this, you know, X amount of dollars per student that lives in that new development that goes to school. So we want to look at that a bit more, but I just want to keep that focus on trying to direct more growth to where we already have the infrastructure in place. I think I finished my presentation, Renee.
I think you did, but I'm pulling it up so people can see it in front of them. And I know one of the things, Paul, and I got the sense that you weren't too keen on it, but, you know, we talked about, because you had brought up how for the aid to small businesses, you know, it was to help invest in them, help for their sustainability. And you had mentioned in some towns, they were providing like, you know, they were providing funds for like rent assistance, right? Like leasing assistance. And I had mentioned, you know, I think specifically Alberto's had mentioned that the rent was going up, and it was one of their reasons that they were considering closing up shop. And, you know, I mean, like I said in the meeting, it's, you know, they've been here for quite some time. And I think if they were interested in staying, and we'd be able to help, you know, supplement with that increase for, you know, the potential that the business gets better and they're able to stay long term, that would be like, that's what I see something, you know, and I just mentioned Alberto's because it's top of mind, but any of the businesses here, right, like that are being hit with increased rent, and it's just, you know, their option is to find another place, which is hard to do in Norton because we don't have a lot of space, or you know, leave. So leave or close. I know there's, you know, a couple others that I've just heard in, you know, basic discussions around town where, you know, the rent's going up and they're looking for new space, but, you know, chances are they're going to end up going out in Norton to do it. So, and that's unfortunate, right? Like we want to keep the businesses here. So I again, like to your point, if we were able to have a review committee and we did it consistently and, you know, awarded money to help invest in these businesses, I think that it'd be a great thing to do.
Yeah, right. I think we would have to just look at the applications that we have and prioritize them and figure out how to invest that money. And if we felt like there was a reason to help, you know, offset rent or mortgage or whatnot, or even salary, you know, that could be okay.
Yeah.
You know, if they want to buy, you know, equipment to make themselves more productive or more, you know, safe health-wise, that would be a great investment, you know? Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Maybe since water and sewers cover on this, we can provide this to Cody and he can think about ways that we can support these projects and residents with these astronomical fees.
How much in ARPA funds are we getting?
About 5.2 million, I believe.
Yeah, I think it's one of the first slides, Renee.
Yeah, I'm going the wrong way.
Oh, wait. No, you might have had it.
Here,
oh, there we go.
This is it. Wow. So there's like two different allocations, but the total, it's 5.9. I'm sorry, I misspoke. So almost $6 million that we're getting for the town. And this can cover, like I was reading, it can cover, you know, the water and sewer projects. Like they have different categories, but there are towns that actually built schools with these funds. There are towns that, you know, like I think about like capital projects specifically, you know, or think about the things, you know, we've talked about, I mean, the police station that should have been included in a different project, but, you know, now they're coming for funding for renovations there. You know, there are roofs that need to be changed and updated. But they have like these 4 main categories, but there are so many things that fall into it. So if you just Google it, like you'll see what other towns have used the funds for. And it's really just it's investing in the town, right? It's not specific to like municipality versus, you know, like fire and police, you know, like planning is in this, economic development in it, you know, schools are included. There was no representation of the schools in this. The request, to Paul's point, were, I mean, some of them are, I can share this with everyone if you weren't able to attend the meeting, but some of the things, like I can just think of the fire department, right? Like a new ambulance, like we have an ambulance that's not working. And it's a significant amount, similar to the water and sewer submissions, you know, they're in the multi-million dollars. They don't, like, not any one project has to be funded completely, you know, like the board can decide to fund various items. So, but what they did throughout here, and you'll see, like for different things related to COVID specifically, because that's kind of where this came from. Like Mike identified the things that are committed for reimbursement or for purchase, and the things that are kind of on the wish list. And I think, Paul, all of your items are still on the wish list, right?
Yeah.
Nothing was committed for yours.
No.
Specifically.
No, mine wasn't. But obviously, they needed to make those capital investments on those. So, but you know, I mean, some of mine will be easier to get going than a couple of those will take a little bit more time.
Yeah.
But to do the guidebook and even the consultant, I don't think that's not going to take much for us to get that off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I think all of these are important. But I have to say, my heart's really working on West Main Street. So I really want to get that going.
Yeah. And there are some things that, would directly, reduce the amounts within the budget, like the capital things. And then there are some like that Paul has here where it's to support. It's not necessarily going to be a savings on the taxpayers or for budget processes, but at the same time, they're just as important, because if we can continue to support businesses or invest in different things, right, it's just going to be healthy for the town. So I can share this with you guys. If you want, I can have Mike come and speak to it as well. Let me know your preference. I don't mind asking him to do that.
I'd love to get a copy of it if it's possible.
Sure. Yep, I'll flip it out.
So Paul, did I hear you say that for the next meeting or at some future meeting that you wanted us to work on a process for evaluating where the funding would go?
Yeah, I think once I get confirmation about the funding, then I think it would be good for us to figure that out. But okay. I think I'm not quite clear what the final process is for allocating that funding, but I know it's coming quickly. But yeah, I think this could be a good project. You all are very project oriented, and this could be a really good one.
Awesome. Well, hey, Paul, I know you said that you were up pretty late last night. Is there anything else that you wanted to share with the commission?
We're also in the process of, I was hoping to be further along, but so the state also now is in the grants regarding development and planning are open right now, and it closes in early June. So we're still in good shape, but I want to really get going on that. But there's a couple of, we can apply up to, well, I think 3 or 4 grants. So we are working on a couple, mostly like in my shop, out of their planning grants. So a couple of the 2 that I'm looking for, one is to get a consultant to help us do 1 or 2 overlay districts. Primarily one would be to promote things like life sciences and maybe more supply chain. And then the other would be to promote more of the community gathering spaces, sort of like Village Center Core, but do it as an overlay district that we, so as you know, like with marijuana, you can opt into it. So we're looking to try to get consulting services for that. And then the other thing is, again, thinking about West Main Street, there's funding now to do what they call placemaking activities, which it would help bring someone in who can actually help think about the design, how West Main Street could go from what it looks like now to something a lot prettier and more functional. And that came right out of our the master plan was to do this. And so we're gonna try to, I'm going to complete an application for it and see if we can get funding to do that. So, you know, we're still doing a lot of the foundational work for West Main Street, but, you know, Rome wasn't built in a day, and you've got to, you know, like we've got to get the businesses better organized. And I don't have a design or architecture background, but if we can get a group to come in, consultants to come in, work with the businesses and, you know, give us some sense of what this could look like, which is like what I wish the vision plan that we did 4 or 5 years ago for that we would have done that, but it really wasn't what that plan was about. But so anyway, that's going to be another thing I'm going to apply for. And I should point out lastly, again, this is not the, you know, the newsworthy stuff, but it's all important. But we have a grant going right now to do a parking management study, and the consultant this yesterday actually was out about 7-8 hours on West Main Street, going from parking lot to study the parking habits of our area. So that's a big step in them producing a plan that could help us make changes to our bylaw to come up with better parking strategies to help, you know, deal with an area that really has no on-street parking, and how can we best, you know, take advantage of the available parking there so that, you know, with that area, when it redevelops, we don't come up with a situation where you can't get all your parking on site. Well, if you can't, okay, what do we have in place so that they might be able to use a neighbor's parking lot, which is done all over the country. So that stuff is, it'll be done by June. It'll be a completed report by then. Again, nothing, you know, it's not the stuff that any newspaper is going to care about, but again, it's all foundational because parking is a fundamental part of your built environment. And you really do that at the foundation level before you can get into other things that you might want to do, from streetscape improvements and all that. So you have to get the parking resolved.
Has anyone suggested or thought about a garage?
Well, you know, we have the new lot. I think that could very well be a recommendation out of it, out of this plan. They'll have to, you know, we'll have to workshop that, but.
I know that right there's that little like Memorial Park by the old senior center, and
yeah,
there's, I think, some land there that's owned by the water department.
And that's where the new surface parking lot is. Yeah. It's just not been very used, but
because it's under power lines too, right? So
yeah, but we actually, that's now what you'll see the signs for a parking lot there, and that's been there for months and months. It's just not a whole lot is happening yet. Well, although, yeah, but you know what? Bog Iron now has their full capacity. I haven't been there in ages, so I don't know how busy they are, but Brian from Bog was, you know, told me the last time I had spoken with him that he was expecting to have more people parking there. In fact, he now has signs up on his lot to tell people to park over there. So I might swing by there tomorrow
Cody, you should check it out this weekend.
What? Check Saturday. It out this weekend?
Yeah.
I've seen some people parking over there. When there's a nice sunny day and the bog is hopping a little bit more, I've seen that parking lot used a little bit anyway.
You have? Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's not going to be that busy for now, but maybe 5 years from now, we'll be very happy we have that lot. And like Cody mentioned, maybe, a garage down the road, it's infrastructure. And I'm trying to think that, Easton doesn't have it. They have a lot. Mansfield doesn't even have a garage, but it's certainly worth putting in the toolbox.
Could we have one? Is that in our bylaw?
What?
A garage or like a parking structure?
No, we don't. But this will have to be incorporated somehow to make these, whatever the recommendations are, some of which will have to be modifications to the bylaw. I'm not going to bore you with all that stuff, but let's put it this way: our parking requirements are they're out of whack. They're not good, and for a lot of reasons. But it's not just the regulations though, but we need to. So here's an example of where the parking strategies will be coming into play. So with Village Center Core, we had a requirement or an allowance in Village Center Core to say that you don't have to do all your parking on site. If you can't, just make sure you have you can do off-site parking on another parcel as long as it's within 800 feet. So the people that bought the Old Town Library are looking to buy the, it's now student housing, but it used to be the old bank. They're looking to close on that. And when they do, they would add parking there to help offset the lack of parking at the library. And so that's within 800 feet. It's actually a pretty decent crossing. They might need to make some crossing improvements at 140 and 123. But if they had done that, if we didn't have that regulation in, we couldn't approve that. And that might have caused them not to be able to make their project happen at the old library. Although, it's still a lot of work for them, but what they have to do to get it, from getting the sewer connected to getting, having to work with MassDOT on getting a curb cut. And
Paul, what's the old bank you were talking about?
It's the residential space right next to the church.
Yeah, the church is on the corner by the light.
The White House.
It's right at the light.
That's right. The bank, a former bank building.
College kids.
College, and that used to be Norton Savings Loan, which was opened in 1930 and became Mansfield Cooperative Bank until they moved to the current location at the West Main Street sometime in the 2000s.
Okay.
Yeah, it's most recently been used for college housing.
I think I'm confusing it with the one that's next to it, where they do sometimes have a plant and flower, like the Historical Society does a plant sale there.
That's a
couple down.
Maybe one down.
That's I
guess right next to the bank on the other side. Yeah,
it looks like a bank too. It looked like it could have been a bank.
But
there used to be a mattress outside for a while.
Yeah, it was.
But in fact, because of, again, the rezoning and the sewer, the same people that are buying that the old bank, they're doing it because, the sewer was there and we zoned it the way they needed it to be zoned. And again, we thought, fortunately, our consultants did a great job of putting that together with the parking. And, it'll be great to finally get to test that zoning district. But again, if we didn't have it, none of that stuff would be happening. It can't. We would have said you have to do it on site, and that would have sunk it. That would have sunk the Old Town Library from happening.
Yeah, I'm so glad that building's going to get some use because it's a gorgeous building.
Yeah, we should have our meetings in there in the future.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, has anyone heard, like, has there been an update from the AG's office about that the emergency order expires at the end of this month? And while commission members would be able to attend virtually, members of the public would not. Has anyone heard about any change in the open meeting law for that? Because we'll need to, because part of that would be we have to meet in purpose, and we would have to meet in person with a quorum, I believe, in person, and then other commission members could, like other members of the public body could join virtually.
I thought that was July 15th.
No, I think Denise, didn't you look it up? It was April 30th.
I
Unless
thought
it's been extended.
I thought the same thing. There was a July date that was that I don't know.
Was it extended?
I think it was extended.
It's July, yeah.
I can look while you're talking. If I looked it up, it was probably a while ago, so I don't know if it's changed.
Yeah, I'd have to look at your text messages. We were going back and forth. You asked about that, but I was gonna say, I was actually thinking like, well, I think our next meeting, isn't that like school vacation week? Are people even here?
I will not be able to make the next meeting.
It is July 15th.
It
July
is?
15th,
Okay.
Yep.
Good, then we have some time. But I was thinking about like one of our next meetings we should try to do in person if we can. And I was thinking in my mind, where would we do that? And the only thing I could come up with was like the lunchroom at Town Hall again, which I don't want to go to. Well, Bog Iron, I got to find out if we can meet in other places. We'll test out the parking lot.
Yeah, looks like they just updated it in February to July 15th,
okay.
2022. Yep.
February feels like a long time ago, but
I hope we still have the ability to use Zoom, though.
You hope what?
I hope we still have the ability to use Zoom, at least for the public. I mean, I wish the state would seriously consider continuing this, you know, allowing people to meet, you know, some number of members of a body to be able to participate remotely without jumping through hoops and hurdles.
Right. Well, that's what they have to change, because it doesn't, the open meeting law right now without the emergency order doesn't allow the public to attend virtually, right? It's only if you're a member of the public body.
Yeah, which is absolutely, we had, I think last night, we had about 60 people at our meeting.
I was there.
What's that, Peter?
I was there.
You were there in person, but I would say roughly half of the audience was virtual, and they were still participating. But that's not for me to decide, but and I know, talking with my colleagues in other towns, they've all said the same thing, that they've seen participation go up because of it. So I hope the legislature really thinks forward on this and not, we had 2 years of being able to meet virtually and keep our business going, and probably had more attendance because of it. I mean, we've been doing hybrids, when we were able to go back, planning board did hybrids until we had to shut down again. And now we're back doing hybrids. And I think it's a really good way to do it. It has its little quirks in it, but anyway, it's neither here nor there. Yeah.
It's interesting. When I was on, and this has been a while, right? But when I was on the one of the MMA meetings, I mean, there were some towns who were really against like Zoom and any sort of a virtual meeting presence. And then there were some who loved it. Like it was really split. I was kind of surprised because I really do think it helps people even just to listen in. Like, I mean, again, like open meeting law doesn't allow, you don't have to hear from the public either, but I think this gives us an opportunity to do it. It certainly makes some meetings longer, but yeah, it's just weird. It'll be interesting to see what happens. And I don't know with, I don't even know what is the status of the AG at this point. Like Maura Healey is running for governor, right? Is she still the AG, or has somebody else been? I'm so off on like local news. She is still the AG?
Yeah.
Like, I just wonder how, like, what a priority it is between her and the governor's office to make some changes to it.
Yeah, don't know what their operations are like right now, but I'm sure she starts to really campaign, they're going to have a transition. But as far as my stuff, I've talked way too much.
Well, we got off on a tangent, so sorry about that.
Cody always does. You mention water, and all of a sudden it's
not water, sewer.
I was trying to be on the clean side of it.
And fees.
Yeah.
He's not anti-sewer. He's anti-very high fees.
I've just been perusing while we're chatting, and I've got Mansfields, Tauntons, North Attleboroughs. Every last one of them is under $3,000.
I'm not going to let you go there anymore, Cody. I'm going to bring us back. The other thing too, I wanted, Paul, did you have anything else that you want to talk about? Can you hang on for just a minute on my update on Solar Retail Norton? Because I don't know that I'm pretty sure this happened since the last meeting. I actually met with Andre. I was across the street and I saw his car in the lot. And so I called him. They were putting up the Canna sign in front of the building. And I asked if I could come over for a tour. So I had an opportunity to meet with him. He talked about just, what's going on. There have been some delays just in scheduling, trying to get inspections done. So he is shooting and very determined to open up in May. He's hoping it's going to be earlier in May than later. And that it corresponds a bit to Xfinity opening as well. But he did invite the entire commission to come for a tour if we'd like to. Right now, it really is kind of just like a shell, but it looks pretty good. He has the counters in, showed me the vault, the overhead door that they put in. They did a really nice job of the place. But there are, a lot of things that aren't done, like the window. It's not film. It's called something else. I can't remember, but to make sure that you can't see from the outside. So let me know if you guys would like to go there and just take a look at it. And I can call him up. I don't know what works for the team, but I'm happy. And I'm sure he would be willing to do it on the weekend too, if that's, the best time for us. But it was nice to actually see him and talk to him, because he was very enthusiastic and excited about, where they are and the remaining items that they have and the potential to open in a couple months. Actually, not even a couple months, because we're in April now, aren't we? So next month. It's so off on my schedule. So you guys let me know. Shoot me a text, whatever, on scheduling, and or we can do it via email. And I'll reach out to him. It's nothing that we have to post. We're not going to make any decisions or have any discussion, but I think it'd be nice to see it. And he'll hit us up to, make sure we're at the grand opening. I tried for samples again. Didn't work. I'm going to keep trying. He's just, he laughs, so that's good.
I think the state might have an issue with that.
Yeah, I know, but it is funny.
Would like him to keep his license.
I know. It was nice though. So I think, hey, maybe we can have our next meeting there. I have a couple of tables folding tables that we can put in there, and chairs, right? We never have more than 10 people. I think I have 20 chairs.
I walk by there a lot of times on the way to Alberto's for dinner, and how about a meeting in there?
Yeah.
I will not be here next meeting.
No, not next meeting. I don't know. Is anyone else? Anyway, well, Paul, I don't want to keep you. But I just wanted to mention that because I think you may have had some conversation with him. I know he's talked to Nick quite a bit.
Yeah, he's wrapping up that.
Have you been in there to tour it, or you want to?
No, I haven't.
Take a look if we can get there. Okay.
It.
Okay. If we want to do a group thing, let's do it. Cool. Okay, I'll throw out some dates and stuff. Anyway, Paul, I don't want to keep you any longer unless anybody has a question for Paul.
Perfect. All right. Well, you all have a great evening. Don't stay on too long.
Nope, we're not going to.
Good.
Hi, Paul. Thank you.
All right, guys. Bye.
Good night,
Bye,
Paul.
Paul.
I've been up since 4:30, so I'm watching the clock. So the next item was a liquor license review committee. I don't know if there's any discussion on that. So I want to share with you the language from the article. So in the article, I've been making some changes to it. It's not prepared for our review right now. One of the things, so I took what you guys had sent, all the good work that you did, and I've just been adding in things based on some of the language that's in the warrant article. And then I haven't fully gotten through the attorney's advice, but adding in some things there. So I'm trying to break it down into like 2 different sections. One being, this is the liquor license review committee. This is what it is, how the process is. And then taking the separate, like, here's the RFI notification, right? And then I'll mix in those timelines that town council was talking about. So I don't have that ready to share with you guys. I did review with the select board at the last meeting, really just the process that, you know, leveraging the previous process and talking about, you know, what we had worked through for the new process, and they were on board. And you know, I'll say Jack was excited, at least, to be able to rely on the EDC to do that. So if I can real quick, in this document, I'm sorry, I was trying to copy something out of it, so it's going to look kind of funny, but it's from the select board agenda packet. So it looks a little weird. I do apologize, but I just want to show you kind of the language that I think KP Law had already put in. So this is specific to the warrant, right? And it just goes through the 2 items, the 2 licenses. One, like all this language that we talked about last time, right? One of the licenses would be on East Main Street between 495 and the town of Easton, and the other one would be from Old Colony Road at North and South Worcester to the Attleboro line. So that was already in there. And then what they did, hold on, I can't, my touch screen doesn't work with this document selected like this. One of the things that they listed in here that was initially out of there was that they have to hold on to it for a year, but specifically here under section 2. So it talks about that the licensing authority, which is the select board, would actually receive a report recommendation from the liquor license review committee. So that's exactly what I called it, established by the licensing authority as part of the procedure that ensures that all licenses are made available to interested parties in accordance with an open, fair, and competitive process. So I use that language, you know, pretty much for the introduction of this is what the liquor license review committee is, LLRC. Doesn't really roll off the tongue very well, but since they already put it in there, I wanted to keep the same language. Now this part I did ask Mike, I think after the meeting I asked him, I don't know that this actually has to be, you know, the fact that the select board is once a committee, like is going to establish a committee under it, I don't know if that has to be part of the town meeting. So I just asked him that, like if it actually needs to be within the language, because I don't want to confuse the issue, because it's twofold, right? Like this warrant is about putting 2 new special legislation liquor licenses in the town. The second part is a review process for any liquor licenses. So right now there's a liquor license that is essentially up for grabs. And we wanted to, in the interest of time, get this review committee together so that any license, right, any liquor license, whether it's an all alcohol or what's it, wine and malt or malt and something, I can't remember the exact language, but any liquor license would come through the EDC for us to evaluate it and then provide a recommendation to the board, right? So I did ask about, does this have to be in the town meeting warrant, or is it something that the board can do as a matter of policy? And then, you know, we can work to what's already there. So, and again, going back to, go ahead, Denise, I'm sorry.
That was gonna be my question. So this is going to be going forward, like if someone relinquishes their liquor license because they've closed the business, whatever, it would go through this committee. Is that what we want to happen? Like, what have they been doing up to this point?
So the last one that was talked about was the special legislation license that was given, I think, to the produce barn, right? And I mean, Brad had indicated the process that was that was followed by the board. He didn't feel good about it. There, you know,
so are you going to solicit? Are you going to solicit like?
We would follow the process for. Yeah.
Each time, okay. I just want to make sure that we know what we're getting ourselves into. That it won't be the same as what we've done for years, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I think, you know, it was twofold in the discussion. I mean, and you figure we've been talking about this for years, right? In the discussion while Brad was on the board, and that's been, I think at least been a year since Brad left the board. You know, he said specifically, like, we have to have an independent review process, right? So that it's not like it's just decided by the board itself, but that there's some sort of, not a competitive thing. Like, we might only have one person who wants, you know, the existing license. I think it's the license that came out of the company that was in Roach Brothers, if I remember correctly. I'd have to confirm that, so don't quote me on that. But you know, it's not an all alcohol license, right? But it's a license that the town owns.
Well, that's what I mean. If you didn't put it out for an RFI, unless someone was following the day-to-day happenings of Norton, they may not know that one was coming.
Is that your house?
Coming over. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
Jeff and Chloe, just go home. But they may not know that a license was available. So that's what I'm saying. Like, you'd have to do it almost like do an RFI so that people could know.
Yes.
Oh, there's a license available. Okay. All right.
Yeah. So I think it's important when we think about the process. It's the process across the board, right? It's for any liquor license. Anytime it becomes due, that, you know, there's an official, here's the start, here's how many days you have to submit. You know, we do notices in papers, postings, things like that. You know, social media, I think we need to get better about broadening those. But yes, Denise, that it would be for any liquor license, not just these two special legislation ones that are going to be voted on at the town meeting. So, but anyway, I'm hoping to have some time this weekend to make some more changes to that document and to listen to the rest of the gentleman that joined us from KP Law, so that I can put in the specifications and the timelines that he had mentioned. Because I want to account, like, in the overall process, I want to account for what happens once it leaves, right, the review committee and then goes to the board, like, because there's a definitive timeline at that point. It's like 30 days from that point when it's considered they've received a completed application. So, and that would be like part of the completed application is getting the recommendation or the report from the EDC. Without that, you know, their application is not complete. So, any questions? Okay, I'll keep you posted as and once I get a clean version of the warrant language, I'll send it along. I just have like it came to us marked up, so I think it was the initial one that we had highlighted for the meeting, and then the addition of the two remaining sections. Okay, it's 8:30. Do you guys want to get into the marijuana establishment review subcommittee, or would you rather? I was kind of thinking when I was writing this, it might make sense just to flush out everything for the liquor license and then just kind of add things back in, like follow the same process. I mean, it's just, you know, it's just adding some additional language on the establishment from the board and other things. I think we can do that.
I'm all for postponing that discussion.
Okay. That's fine.
I will not complain.
Yeah. Then let's talk about, Denise was kind enough to send us 3 minutes from meetings. I don't know if anybody had an opportunity to review them. We can take a couple minutes if you wanted to review them. I had comments on, or I think a comment on one of them that I didn't remember this part of the conversation, so I just wanted to confirm it with everybody. But did everybody have a chance to look at them, or you want to take 5 minutes to review them real quick?
I've not looked at them.
Okay, why don't you take, I'll say there are 3 of them, so 9 minutes. One of them's really short. I think you can review them in that time. If not, we can have more time.
The December one, I think, was short. And I will have tonight's right after the call.
You're going to do more?
Well, I've been typing tonight's as we've been talking, so.
Oh, tonight's after the call. Okay, I missed that. Denise, it just cut out. You're so efficient. I wish Zoom did. I'm sorry, I'm not going to talk while I asked you to review something. I'll tell you later.
Renee, just super quick while everyone's reviewing that. I don't remember when we vote on this with some setting up the minutes. You have to vote on each individually or all three as a unit?
We can do either or.
Oh, where's Chris Keys been? I just saw his name posted here.
I don't know. California still? Does anyone know when he was coming back?
Oh, Chris Keys, is that what you asked? Laura? He's
in
California. He's coming back sometime this month. I forget when. I just talked to him the other day.
Okay. He's been sitting in. He's just missed the last couple is all.
Wants to make sure that he misses just enough that we won't force him to become a permanent member.
Yeah, I had no idea we were getting that much money in ARPA funds. That's great.
It is. That's over, you can use it over 3 years, but it's still, it's a significant amount.
Renee, did you ever get a hold of Goat City?
Scared the crap out of me. No.
Let's say that loud.
No, I didn't. I read it. I was at the Hub Parkour when I was reading the minutes, and I read that, and I'm like, oh, I don't have my sticky here with her phone. I have her phone number written down. I haven't called. I think on the next meeting minute, Paul was going to reach out to her too. So I can't find that sticky. I will. She's been on my list, as well as I reached out to somebody for a contact with Tasty Bagels. I think I asked Jen to reach out to Nick to see. I think that they probably need to submit something for a permit for the construction in there, but I haven't heard back yet. I'll have to follow up. I do have her number somewhere though. I've seen the sign is up, like it says Goat City coming soon.
Yeah, I think, so I have a friend who's friends with the owners, and I think she said the 11th was the last she had heard. So it should be within the next week or two anyway.
Wait, did you say you're friends with the owners?
Friends with a friend of a friend.
Oh. You know what my next question was about to be.
I did see a lot of work trucks there tonight when I went by.
We're trying to get a track booster fundraiser there. So I guess they're open to doing that like Home Plate used to do.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Isn't there a track fundraiser this weekend?
There's Kate's Cookies, which ends today. The sale ends today, so have time.
And there was a need fundraiser at Sweet Stuff today.
Oh, there was.
I don't get any updates on these. Like I had to search for the need fundraiser for the comedy night.
I don't know, but I went.
Seen that posted yet.
I missed the one about the sweet stuff, Denise. What was that on Facebook? Or in the news?
Yeah, it was. That was on Facebook.
Yeah,
today.
I think Kate. I think Kate posted it, maybe to possibly Norton. Yeah.
Didn't use hashtag Norton for Biz.
Yeah, could have.
Oh, I'm gonna have to talk to her about that.
Nobody uses it, and I stopped reposting stuff. There's not enough hours in the day.
It's on Paul's signature.
Is it?
If you've received an email from him, yeah, he has it at the bottom of his signature, which I thought was great. That's, I think, covered in one of these. We have to get better about that.
It was in the 12:1 minutes.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, we haven't done anything. Like there's been no outreach, and I don't follow every business in town to see, but I can't get any of them to use it. The only one that I got to use it was Fork and Bib, and they're coming back soon.
I was gonna say, because when I saw somebody using it, but
Dave Lennon uses it.
Oh, does he?
Who does?
Dave Lennon.
Norton Kayak.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Painter.
Yeah.
Can't wait for,
what was that, Peter?
Can't wait for Goat City Pub so I can try out the restaurant.
Yeah, it'll be great. Has everyone read the minutes? Okay. So I had just a comment on one of them, if we can, before we submit, just talk about that. On the February 9th, I actually had a couple comments, and on the section 2 was our conversation with the Water and Sewer Department. There was an item in there where I think I had asked if the map could be updated to show the Commerce Way sewer that was supported by Taunton, if they could make a delineation so that we knew how far the Taunton sewer line came into town. And I just put in there a note that they agreed, or they noted that it could be added on there. I just added that in to the minutes. And then my question was on item 13 there, we talked about for one of the next meetings, and I actually don't think that we talked about this, but the overall process. Oh, it's still on our agenda now. For all types of marijuana businesses, when we should consider the HCA, you listed in here, Denise, when we should consider the HCA void if languishing too long. But I thought that the conversation was more about when do they come back to the EDC to present, like defining the criteria. So if they want to change in license, or they want to change in address or ownership, like, do we want to define criteria of when they would come back to us before going to the select board and doing an amendment to the HCA? So I think we had, go ahead.
That may have been, you might be correct. I just understood that one, yeah.
Okay. Because I think that the terms in there, I think we put a sunset clause in there. I think it's like 2 years without requests from them or updates. Like, I can't remember what the update cycle was. Okay, so what if we amend that to read overall process for all types of marijuana businesses, and when should we consider, let me just take it from the agenda, having applicants present here. Yeah, there you go. I like that. And when we should consider having applicants reappear, I'll just put in front of the commission.
Are those both on the, are both the sewer overlay and the one you're talking about now on the 323?
Yes, they are on the 2.9. I can,
why not? Sorry.
I can share my screen. Hold on.
No, I'm just asking as I'm making notes. Sorry.
Oh. Do you want me, does anybody want me to share just to see it? Okay. I saved it down into the, I saved it down into Dropbox, Denise, too.
Okay, perfect.
So I just made the change, highlighted. I'll take the highlights off once we vote on it.
Okay.
That was the only change. And then I think in that one, I just put the next, I don't know why I put the next meeting date wasn't populated. I wrote in March 23rd, but the 23rd wouldn't have been 2 weeks from the 9th.
I think we had didn't we get off schedule?
Yeah, but didn't we do it because we didn't have quorum? So we would have said our next meeting was 2 weeks. I need a calendar, right? Does anybody remember us not having a meeting in February?
We skipped pretty much the whole month.
So were we intending on having, staying on cycle?
Someone kept forgetting to post the.
Oh, right. Yeah, I know. I can't believe that person. Wait, was that for February?
A lot of January, I think.
February was our first meeting of the year, right?
I think so, yeah.
January.
Denise.
And then we missed
it. Was, yes.
Yeah.
Because I was going backwards, and I think I'm actually missing, I missed one because I saw on your list, we had a meeting on 3/9, but I didn't see, because I was going by the videos. I didn't see the video, but I'll look for it later.
Okay, so this was supposed to be, I did look at my calendar. It was February 23rd, but you had March of 2022 listed. I just put in the 23rd because I pulled up the calendar and didn't pay attention. Why can't I spell February right now? February. Okay, so I just put the next meeting. I'm sure I can go back to the agenda to confirm, but I'm sure that we picked February 23rd as the next meeting.
Are you saying like the next meeting on the 2/9 meeting minutes?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we specified it at the end of the meeting, but it should have been 2 weeks afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so that's the only change that I had to those two sections. So if we're fine with that, we can I'll do this. Any changes from anyone else for any of the three that Denise submitted? So it would have been for December 1st of 2021, February 9th of 2022, and March 23rd of 2022. Any changes? Okay, then the chair will entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes of December 1st, 2021, to approve the amended meeting minutes as discussed for February 9th, 2022, and approve the meeting minutes as submitted for March 23rd, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Laura?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Denise?
Yes.
Cody?
Yes.
And I too am a yes. So we got 3 of them out of the way. Nice job, Denise.
Those are I keep looking at we've approved since I've been on.
Just wait until I come out with the flood of the ones from 2020.
Yeah, I'm going to be voting on them. Going like, I wouldn't remember.
I think those are all the MRS meetings.
Those are all 2020.
Yeah. Can you believe it was that, like, it does not seem like it was that long ago, but yeah.
I hope to have the rest caught up by the next meeting.
I'm not going to give that same plate. I won't give that same promise. There's no way I can reasonably do that before the next meeting. I do have them all. They're all structured though. I just need to fill in details. Okay. With that, I had for the next town meeting on here specifically an update from Mike Units. He provided a brief update on a habitat opportunity that he's going to talk about with the select board next week. So I thought it would be a perfect opportunity to have him back on to talk about those town-owned properties and see if we've gotten any further now that we've had this person in the position for several months. And then I believe that Alyssa will also be joining us for some updates from her and a potential new license that she's interested in. We're trying to just get some clarity on some information before coming to the EDC. So I anticipate that will be at our next meeting. So let's talk about the date. So Denise, you're not going to be here. The 20th is a Wednesday. I most likely will probably not be in town either. So the question will be is if we have quorum or if we just move either to the, well, I can't, we can move to the following Tuesday. I couldn't do, oh wait. Oh, no, I'm still gonna be on the board. We can do, I was gonna say, wait, we can do the Wednesday, my Wednesday open, but no, close. We can do the following Tuesday, or we can just skip and go whatever 2 weeks is from the 20th.
Well, is Alyssa looking to move forward soon with whatever she wants to share with us, or like, are we don't meet with her next time?
Yeah, you know, I don't know that we'd want to wait a month. Alyssa, I guess Alyssa, are you still there? I see you, but are you able to talk?
Yes.
Hi. Now we really see you. Yeah. With the things that you would have to do with the discussion with your attorney, I mean, a month out seems really long. So I don't know that we'd want to delay you that long. What are your thoughts though with the work that you'd have to do?
I guess I would turn that back around on you and see if I really need to go in front of the EDC again. I mean, I'm happy to, there's no problem with that, but if you're a month out on the meetings, I wouldn't like to wait that long.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, I'm still able to operate, I'll put it this way, I'm still able to operate, as originally proposed. This is just, an extra. I mean, it would be great to get moving, but if I need to come back before the EDC again,
I mean, it's a new license that you're looking at, and new to, like the combination of licenses. Can I ask this group, would you guys be available on Tuesday, the 26th?
Yeah, I'm free.
I could do that.
Not me, I got a baseball game.
Is Colgan playing baseball? Oh, he is?
And I'm assistant coaching.
Of course you are. Denise, would you be available?
I will. I'll likely be in a car at least part of it, but yes.
Okay. Why don't we shoot for Tuesday, the 26th? And then that way we're not waiting as long, and that'll give you an opportunity, Alyssa, to present to the board. Because there may be questions back from the select board on this specifically. So I think it'd just be better to position it. And then if needed, the select board meets on the 27th. So so really wouldn't be much of a delay because that would have been the normal meeting. I can get you on the agenda for that. Assuming, I don't know that we would have the other things prepared, but I'll put it here right now. Once I get some answers from town council, I'll know more on timing.
Yeah, that'd give town council also, time to review the things that we spoke about. so no one feels rushed at all,
Yeah. Okay, so let's plan for that then. We'll plan to meet on Tuesday the 26th with 2 items specifically. I'll check Mike's availability. I think FinCom meets on Monday, so it shouldn't be a problem for him, but I'll make sure. And then we'll kind of keep the agenda light if we can. We'll have these 2 topics, and then we'll plan to review the liquor license review committee process. We can push the other stuff to later.
Also, Renee, I just wanted to add too, as well, for scheduling purposes. I don't think that, the presentation will nearly be as long as, some of the others. It's, pretty simple. So.
Yep. No, I agree. Perfect. Okay. Well, great. Thank you guys. Thanks, Alyssa, for jumping in just so we can chat through this. Okay, if there's nothing else to come before the commission, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
Was that Laura? Oh, that was Sandy. Hold on.
I seconded.
Okay. Okay, Laura?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Denise?
Yes.
Cody?
Yes.
And I too am a yes. We are adjourned at 8:55 p.m. Thank you guys very much for your time, and I will see you in about 3 weeks.
Luciano, Laura, Sandy, and Alyssa. Good night, y'all.
Good night.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye.